Streaks of Scarlet, a story in 100 parts. It's 7:13 p.m., she notes. She's about to leave her cursed computer when another damned idea demands it's time to bleed the screen again. I will come back, she starts, then pounds the delete key in fury. She hikes out to meet her edges. The motion of her eyelashes distracts her as she types, as does the defining urge to call this her autobiography. She considers the sentence. She reconsiders herself. She looks out the window into the nothingness that envelops her. Having endured so many circular, identical events, how can she tell this story again? He drives a new, shiny white BMW, which he can't afford. Drives around all day, looking to score. He knows cleverness is a weapon. Pour to melt, he insists. Only when the torment of starvation judges feeding unavoidable does she finally acquiesce, for the constant ache of hunger is, on virtually any other day, preferable by far to capitulating, however briefly, to the hollow-eyed fates of the others, those composed almost entirely of bone, the scarce remnants of their stringy hair hanging over the thin, translucent layers of exhaustion embedded in their eyes, skin wreathed in worms, or those whose wrecked flesh turned to ash that went swirling forever away on the winds of a gray wind. She runs through the chalk hallways, the white pages, the chapters of absence, looking for anybody at all, who knows her name. She crosses the arches of his palace gate with ease. Who knows him, and therefore his fortresses, better than she? Nobody. Nobody. Even so, she is eventually detected and detained. Seeing no other way out of her imprisonment, she grits her teeth and bats her eyelashes, trying not to let the rage cloud her blue eyes, shot through with lightning. But his kisses were dust. Stillness, a blackbird. All is silent in that blood forest, but for the sighs of the carbon trees and the scrape of butterfly wings, as the prince performs their ritual slaughter for his feast. Road reverse, reverse road. She can't get away from this palace. The sky underfoot, the sun in her skin, again and always. A skein of fire sweeps through her veins, blossoming in her gut, propelling her perpetually forward. The foreground flies alongside her, colors blurring together in a haze of brown and green, mixed with streaks of scarlet in the blood sap leaking from the devil trees. As for any context or sense of direction, she lost that long ago, when the weight of light broke her back. Nothing but loneliness to keep her company now. Cut. Begin, she thinks, begging herself to believe. I must begin again. Cut. But here comes the wall of sepulchral silence slamming into her. Her 6.5 sapphires spill into the abyss. Cut, cut, cut. The crank goes round. He's lost and found as the poison crosses his blood-brain barrier. He glides, he soars, he smiles. A waterfall of phantoms gather in brief, anonymous fields of filth, half-flattened prairie grass, and other bleak, deserted lots. The serpent that once gave her the best advice. Here's his love. Hold it. Keep holding. Now surpasses the genius of his previously imparted wisdom with this ancient lesson. He strikes at her, fangs sinking deep. He seems to shrug as he slithers away. Numb-lipped, she sucks the poison from her veins. Heart-sore and battered, she scrapes the burning dust of the alkali flowers from her skin and walks on. One step forward, one step back. A girl needs a gun these days, on account of the rattlesnakes, she sings, laughing hysterically between syllables. She thinks of her prince, of the impossibility of rescue, of her inevitable beheading. The prince silences his rattler as he makes his stealthy escape. He is pleased with himself, the taste of her blood in his mouth, the intoxicating venom of betrayal. To Scarlet, the suicide pact they made at the beginning seems reasonable, easy even. She can tell by the bottle of benzodiazepines in her hand, by the crimson canteen she is filling with poisoned river water. She fingers the razor in her pockets, notes the bulge of her veins, the twitch of her fingertips, her chattering teeth. He watches his small scars and track marks flex and roll as he clenches and unclenches his fist, veins under the strain of the tourniquet. He doesn't hesitate. He capitulates to the sinking, honey-burnt bliss. They made the pact when she was 13, and he was 15, both old enough to know better, though they knew nothing but themselves. Entrenched in the middle of a dark copse, the leaves filtered the silver moonlight pouring in, shimmering slant light dancing with shadows. Their tongues gave up kissing to the gravity of their promise. Their fear bled into gradual day. It's okay, he whispers. We can do this anytime, any day, anyway. Did you exist ever? Did you? Scarlet reaches for his hand, gone for so long now. All he left her was a gift of slain sky, shredded narrower than her small, despairing size. They must have collapsed on the moist ground, but the lack of hospital records contradicted the corpus delicti, blood and flesh evidence he left on the forest floor. Though the queen threatened beheading if Scarlet ever finds the prince, she has always been able to convince herself that opposition to violence and the methodical revelation of truth would be enough to keep the blade away. Always. Until today. Not true, chants the prince. He is in 15-year-old form, laughing, laughing, because you forget that you forgot, he whispers, but he is wrong. She hasn't forgotten anything. Her appetite outrages him. He pummels her face and chest, pounding her with his right fist, raking the nails of his left hand down her breast. Nobody shapes their weapons like he. Rage taps on the window. The window taps on the door. She washes her hands in the blood river. Wisps of her climb into the bus that runs back to the forest branching beyond the palace. She can't find a single place to pray amidst this, his vast, darkling forest. Where are you going? She asks him, because he won't come with her. He doesn't answer. He never answers. His image enlarges until the excruciating weight of him crushes her. He leaves her freshest friezes pressed between the pages of a forgotten photograph album. He gets in his BMW with the dead again and scores. The prince's girlfriend shot up in the passenger seat of his car. The girlfriend's sister wanted to play, but when little Shannon had a brain hemorrhage, no one bothered to call checkmate. They still play the corpse game, driving, always driving. Their plastered, smiling faces never change expressions. Don't be afraid, he says to Scarlet. I can see you in the death mirror. What does this mean? She asks him. Greet the dead the way the dead greet you. She has learned the hard way. He grabs her by the throat. He hides inside her bones. She forgets what hands are for. A light will come, he promises her. You will be held up, and you will be blessed. You will be raised above the most glorious of stars. It is then that she remembers. Hands are for offering him needles. O sand, O silk, O galactic black wild. She dances naked, breathless, on the web spread surfaces of zodiacal light. O exposed bruises, O love doubled into madness into self-murder. Flood of sunlight bouncing off dust particles, ions in the coronal plasma, forbidden spectral emission lines. She reads pages of blank verse. Her eyes skim the skies, registering the empty, majestic light of celestial bodies, most of which have already died. Their light is an echo, a ghost chased by time. She's drowning in the cold moonlight. It's not the same, the hike through the mountains this day, as it was at 1:37 a.m. on November 22nd, 1999. What she remembers best is not that force fuck against the concrete wall of darkness. What stays with her most of all is his cataclysmic act of banishment, delivered by the lips of another. The strong, unwanted man came later, just as her prince's repentance did. But later was far too late for her. He'd thrown her in the sepulchre with the rest of the rotting bodies. In the morning, he realized his mistake. He ran, red hair framing the dread funereal sky. He flung himself against the stone door. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I was afraid. But I don't want to be alone. I want to be with you." He laid her body on the grass under the shade of a cercis tree. She was cold, so cold, but she was breathing. He laughed, he cried, he held her to him. Even then, he didn't notice something was wrong. "It's all right," he told her. "It's okay. Here we are together again, and we'll try to lead another life, a better life, and we'll succeed. You'll see." Which of them had cried then, a single tear dripping down a pale, frightened cheek? It didn't matter. By the time he'd come back for her, he was too late. All those hours spent with the rotting bodies, by then she thought she was dead again. "Don't move," he said to her. "Don't dream until I come back from the dead for you. I will come back from the dead for you." The palace grounds flashed steep and white in sudden lightning, the plan of one endless disaster. She lies in his death garden, graveyard of discarded machines, soundlessly weeping, wondering, beseeching him, "Why do you always find me where I'm not?" She climbs back onto the moat. Earth begins turning toward the meteor showers of midsummer. The day is warm, and the fire inside Scarlet begins to melt the ice ache of abandonment for now, bringing her blood back to boiling rage. She turns to face the castle, bracing herself for the collision whose impact will surely be deadly. The corridors anticipate. They empty, allowing darkness to flood in. He chews on a butterfly's ragged skin, watches the fish, curious, rippling emeralds with streaks of scarlet swimming lazily around. He snatches one up from the pond. His hands have always been quick, and places it on the cobblestone path that meanders through the massive gardens adjacent to the deviltries. He watches it drown in the abundance of oxygen. He keeps chewing. In the prince's own calligraphy, we have on scrolls his thoughts on pornography and what makes a woman a woman. She listens to the ancient trees stream upward toward the cyanotic sky. The blood river to the east goes plundering past. She moves into a space wrought more by silence than song. He told her once he sees external wounds as internal healing. Impossible with him to be innocent.